One of the concerns of any Greek teacher is that when you're first starting to learn a little bit of Greek, you may not understand the flexibility of the language, flexibility in the grammar, but also flexibility in the vocabulary. A lot of the abuse that I've seen of Greek by people who don't know that much is to think that they've learned these very basic fundamental rules and they always apply in every situation. And that's just not the case. That's not the way language functions. As I like to say, language is analog, it's not digital. It's on a spectrum, it's loose in a sense. But this passage gives you a good example of that in terms of the vocabulary. In Mark 6:2, there's actually quite a few things that are kind of fun to point out. It starts with for you, it would be a difficult Greek construction, but let's take a look at it. Because what you have here is called a genitive absolute, where sabatu is functioning as the subject of this participle. We'll worry about that some other time. But it means, and when the Sabbath came, he, meaning Jesus, began to teach in the synagogue. And many hearing, in other words, when they heard it, they were astonished, saying, then here's this interesting phrase, where to this one these things. Now, tuto is a demonstrative pronoun, right? It means this. But in this case, contextually, you can clearly see that it's referring to Jesus. And you could say, as I do in my translation, this man, or you could say, from whence, or from where, to him, these things. In other words, where do these things come from to him? So here you have this demonstrative pronoun, against the same one, right? It's hutos, and it's these things are what he's been talking about, but these things have come to this one, meaning Jesus. So you could say to him, or as this translation does, this man. So again, the basic rule here is the demonstrative pronoun not only can function to mean this, but when referring back to a person, we'll often translate it as a pronoun, he, or in this case, you make it a little clear, of this man. And what wisdom which has been given to this one. So again, you have the same thing. You have hutos, to him, to this one, to him. In other words, where did the wisdom come from? It's interesting if you look at the textual variant, and I put the mouse over the textual variant note, I can see it down below. You can see that it is auto in some of the manuscripts. Why? Because this just was not clear, and they wanted to clarify it that this one was in fact him, meaning Jesus. So it's just a good illustration of how the demonstrative pronoun can mean this, but it can also function as a personal pronoun, or sometimes you're going to translate it a little differently, whatever it takes to point you back to the right antecedent. Language is flexible.